Yo, what's going on, everyone? Good morning. It is Monday, April 1st, 2019, April Fool's Day. All right, guys, we actually ran quite an interesting month in March. Obviously put some positions, some work, some didn't work. Always not continuously you stick to your stops though. So when they don't work for you, you cut your losses, mitigate your risk, and you obviously go heavy when the ideas are on your side. So that being said, obviously SPY's trying to make that run for that mid 285 level that it got stuffed out last week. So we'll see what happens today in the markets as the session opens up. Obviously, as always, you're always going to have some wild swings right at the bell. People trying to get their orders filled. Obviously getting in, getting out. Friday we had Lyft IPO and it came down quite a bit. It actually came down, about 10 points? A little over 10 points actually. So, it was a little ambitious as far as the IPO price. Clearly the market says yes. Obviously our opinions don't mean much. The market is exactly, and it's always right. So that being said, let's look for Lyft. Lyft's gonna possibly come down quite a bit. It may find some support somewhere, but let's just see how this thing operates for a little bit before we step in and play with it, the upside, and see how the market reacts to it. So let me say we got 9 stocks going into watch. And, as I always say, all you need is one good trade, right? So, no matter if you have 1 or 2 stocks on watch or you have 9 or 10 stocks on watch, it's irrelevant. You do your homework, you do your research, and you monitor your stocks on watch, right? So they're not all going to be, perfect setups and ready to put positions on, and that's okay. You obviously cherry pick the best of the best of the best, and you forget the rest. And it sounds corny, but that's the reality. You need to be and stay diligent with your trading. Only trade your setups. Let the setups come to you. And if something isn't setting up, don't force it. Either put it in the back pocket, keep monitoring it for sure as always for a little bit later in the day or maybe possibly later in the week, and focus on the ones that are giving you high probability setups that you see time and time again. So let's get into it here. We got PRGS on watch. As you can see, it had quite a bit of a gap up on Friday, close to 16%, but they just showed weakness. As you can see, it tried just a little bit in the morning before 10 a.m. to peak above VWAP, but clearly VWAP held it down, and it just kind of lived below that below VWAP the whole day. And not that sellers are stepping in yet, but it's not showing strength right now, obviously. So that being said, let's see what the market tells us today. Is it going to start kind of fill that gap, or is it going to try to make another run for the mid 47s where it reached resistance last week? So let's keep this on watch, and if it's showing some weakness, if VWAP's holding strong, we can step in. Next up we have SAIC, same scenario as PRGS, right? It peaked out mid 82s, had a little tiny bit of life above VWAP at around 11 a.m., then just got stuffed out and lived below VWAP the rest of the day. So it's clearly showing some weakness. If that's going to continue today, we're going to see if it's going to fill this gap, but plenty of room to the downside. If it shows strength, obviously after that 10 a.m. session, after the first 30 minutes, if it's showing strength and it's going to try to continue that run, then we may take a position to the upside. But if it can't sustain its level, like it's probably going to try to trade above VWAP in the morning, if it can't sustain that level and starts to crack below VWAP again, then we may step in, take it down as well. TCDA, as you can see, had quite a run on the 28th, quite a continuation on the 29th, peaked out around 2 p.m. Is it showing weakness? It's possible, right? So, I like parabolics like this that go obviously straight up. Obviously, we know that these prices aren't sustainable. So, let's see if this is going to continue. If this is going to continue fading, putting in lower highs and lower lows, we'll definitely step in and enjoy this ride to the downside. So, you obviously got, just a quick analysis, you got maybe $35 to the $35 marks. You got what, close to 3.5 points, right? So to the downside. So let's see how the market talks to us today and see if this thing is done and want to kind of retrace and make some of those gains, or actually put some of those gains back. So let's continue with our watch list. VRNT, another one that had a run on the 28th, peaked out for pretty much right after 10 o'clock, right after a 30-minute session on Friday. So, and it started putting in lower highs and lower lows. So definitely like this to the downside. It's showing some weakness, plenty of meat on the bone here. So if it starts to live below VWAP, I'm going to look for the pullback to VWAP and step in and maybe scale into this thing to the downside. MDB, you know, this thing has just been on watch constantly for us for quite a bit, and it's been nice. You know, we took a few nice positions to the upside, peaked out, took a couple positions to the downside. Obviously, it gained a little bit, close to a point on Friday. Is it maybe just fighting a little bit, which is very possible. You know, I'm not seeing that the big boys are putting more shares into this thing. I'm not seeing this thing increasing in price. You know, I can see it's going to crush through the 20-second resistance level, but I think it's going to maybe chop out a little bit. So let's wait for this thing to smooth out a little bit before we step in and takes more to the downside. So obviously let the market tell you what direction it wants to go. Next up, KL. KL obviously gave us a little bit of a gap down on the 28th, had a day 2 for us on the 29th, and it showed it closed weak. So, you know, if the market is going to continue to the downside today, we're going to see if this thing gets stuffed out on VWAP and maybe continue to the downside. There's obviously plenty of room left to the downside, plenty of meat on the bone here. So let's see if we're going to ride this thing down. If it's showing some strength and wants to kind of retrace and bring some of those lost points, then, you know, okay, we're going to step away and look for something else. But let's keep this on watch and see what it's going to do. SCVL, as you can see, had a solid gap up on 27th, and it's just been fading out, right? So this is a textbook gap fill. You know, I mean, let's see, the high of the previous gap day was almost $31, right? So, you know, right now it's at 34. You got 3 more points to go. And is it going to run there? No, obviously, but it's showing you that it's taking that. It's not taking the elevator down, it's taking the steps down, taking the stairs down. So, you know, every time he pulls back to VWAP, it could be an interesting scale in position to the downside every time it gets to the pullback, because it's been showing as weakness. So until it shows a strength, might as well continue riding this thing down. And you know, many times when you have gap fills beginning and they've already cracked the low of the gap day, 9 times out of 10 it's going to get to the high of the previous gap day. And that's exactly what's happening right here. So let's keep this on watch. AZN had a solid gap, had a decent gap day. Gap down on Friday, almost 6%. Closed week, so it's definitely given us a day 2 radar. Plenty of room to the downside, obviously on the dailies you can see. Let's see if this is going to continue for us. The only thing I don't like about this thing is it's not that high of institutional ownership. So it's on the watch, but it's not at the top of the watch list. So let's just keep that in the back of our mind. See that it's not heavily owned by institutions, but it's enough just to keep me curious. Let's just say that. So next up, Restoration Hardware, RH. RH had a significant gap down and closed almost 29 points to the downside. So they took quite a bit of a cut, and it was fading all morning, right? It didn't even come close to a VWAP, any type of life above VWAP. So that being said, you know, it's going to fade to the downside, and if obviously boys are still, you know, dumping shares, we'll see how much, and if it's going to continue. It's a very low stress, low risk, high reward trade to the downside. So let's keep that on watch. All right, guys. So we got 9 going into the session. Obviously, as I always say, you only need 1 good trade. So stick to what you know best. Stick to your setups that work for you, that you see clearly. Stay diligent to your stops, and let the trade come to you. All right, guys. As always, you know, if this interests you and you want to learn how we do it here on these charts or any other charts, come check us out. Come check out thestreettrading.com. Get you sorted out with the 90-day course and get you on your way. All right, guys. Have a great day in the markets.